Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's now 3 o'clock, and we are just about ready to start our session today on Teacher as Peacekeeper, De-escalation skills for the everyday classroom Warzone. Welcome, everyone, to this afternoon session, which is already one of the last few before we finish the whole series. Thank you so much for joining us. And today we're going to talk about something that is very important because it happens in classrooms. You can actually have students who will make life very difficult for teachers, will make every day a challenge. And you cannot avoid it. Sometimes things can escalate. And that's what we're interested in today. De-escalation skills. Um, in case things erupt, in case things go worse inside the classroom. That's why sometimes we say the classroom is like a war zone. Every day is like a battle being waged by the teacher to discipline students, to manage them, to keep them in control, to make them work hard, to make them study, to make them kind and caring, which nowadays can be a challenge, especially after the pandemic when the students went back to the classroom and some of them have forgotten to be kind, to be courteous, to be nice. Um, that is an observation given by the experts who studied the changes that have happened among the young people. And so this is what we are interested in today, how to make sure we win the war, how to make sure we continue to be on top of our game in spite of the challenges, in spite of the difficulties. This is our battle cry, our motto, or our like guiding principle for this afternoon session. Lower the heat, lift the human, which brings us to a very important idea that we are dealing with thinking, feeling human beings inside the classroom. We're not dealing with machines, we're not dealing with animals. We are dealing with people of different types of temperaments and sensitivities and character. And yes, unfortunately, we can have students coming inside our classroom and they didn't seem to have learned at home kindness, niceness, uh, good manners, right conduct, good attitude. But every single one of them, whatever kind of character they bring in inside the classroom, every single one of them has that innate desire to be accepted, to be understood, and to belong. So here are our learning outcomes for today that we will set for ourselves. One is to be able to spot early warning signs, tone, posture, peers, and interrupt or stop, prevent escalation within 15 to 60 seconds. Okay. And then I'm going to share with you a 5-step de-escalation ladder with trauma sensitive language. You like that? Because really, if we don't have these skills, if we don't have these strategies, approaches, the tendency for a teacher is to lose patience, to shout, to scream, to yell, to get angry, or to have your blood pressure shooting up. So that's the other thing that I hope will really be very helpful for you, the 5-step de escalation ladder. And then We will also look into non-verbal and environmental resets that reduce arousal without power struggles. Ineffective teachers resort to shouting, getting angry, getting mad, and unfortunately, even in some places, harming students, hurting them, throwing chalk, or if they don't react, they throw the eraser. If they still don't stop, the teacher will throw the book. I've even seen a teacher throwing a monoblock chair on a student, thinking that that is the most appropriate reaction, considering that the student is really disruptive, undisciplined, unruly, and uh, cannot be put in his proper place. And so you have teachers who resort to wrong things like that. Okay. Here's number 4 learning outcome that I hope we will be able to achieve, to be able to run a 2-minute restorative micro conference that is able to repair after a flare up. And then finally, the 5th is to track impact with simple metrics, referrals, time on task, recovery time. So all these we hope to be able to cover in our 1 hour together today. Now, before we get on with the ladder, step up ladder strategy and diagnosing the students' lack of discipline or lack of proper attitude inside the classroom, I want you to hear this story. A few years ago, a teacher faced a near meltdown. You know, yung halos nag-collapse na ang sitwasyon sa loob ng classroom. Meltdown, near meltdown. A student suddenly slammed his book and shouted, "This class is stupid." Of course, the entire room went silent. 30 pairs of eyes fixed on the teacher, waiting for an explosion because they know, wow, this is an amazing situation. A student shouting like that, this class is stupid, complete with a banging of the book on top of his table, or simply like showing that I give up. It's impossible. This class is stupid. So that was the situation. And everybody suddenly looked at the teacher, waiting for his reaction. In that tense moment, the teacher resisted the urge to snap back, to shout, to scream, to yell. He held his temper. Instead, he took a slow breath, lowered his voice, and said calmly, "You look frustrated. Let us step aside for a moment." The student paused, glared for a second, and then muttered, "Fine." Just 2 minutes later, he returned to his seat and quietly went back to work. You know, that small scene showed everyone in the room a powerful reality, a powerful truth. The greatest authority in the classroom does not come from raising one's voice, but from lowering the heat and lifting the human. Lowering the heat and lifting the human. Try to put yourself in that situation. What would you have done? Or maybe you've already experienced it. What did you do? A student suddenly shouting something that is, well, for the teacher can be insulting. It's like the kid is saying, the class is boring, the class is stupid, the class is useless, we don't know what. You can have a situation like that. You can encounter kids these days like that. No, I don't even just refer to kids. I've seen a high school student do that. Wait, I even saw a college student react that way. And everybody looks at the teacher, waiting for his reaction. What will he say? Will he shout? Will he yell? Will he tell the student, get out? Will you tell the student, go to the principal's office now? I know some teachers, their reaction will be, John, keep quiet. Are you challenging my authority? That's how they will react. Or they will say something like, um, John, get out. I don't want to see you in my classroom. Stupid pala. Go. I'm going to give you a failing grade. You can have teachers reacting like that because suddenly at that moment, they don't see a student. They see a defiant, angry human being, but still a human being. So we should not forget that that John that just exploded like that is a thinking, feeling human being whose most innate desire is to be accepted, to be understood, and to belong. And it's in our hands. Teachers, here's the idea. Here's a very important idea. We are the adults inside the classroom. Okay? And therefore, how we react is how the whole scenario is going to unfold. We are the teachers. We are the adults. We have to be the ones putting things in the proper order again after that explosion, after that outburst. So it's good to know strategies, approaches, or at least have an idea of what do we do if we encounter a situation like that. Let me share with you now the core model. 5-step de-escalation. We cannot meet fire with fire. And please, that student is not challenging our authority. There may be other reasons behind that outburst. And precisely, he comes to school in order to learn from the adults, from the teachers, from us. Okay, so the idea is at that moment, it's already beginning to escalate, and our reaction is what will determine whether it becomes worse or it will lessen, or if we will be able to put out the fire. Now, some of you might not need this now because maybe your students are angelic, so good, so nice, hindi makabasag pinggan. They are so respectful, courteous, nice. Congratulations. That is a unique class. But the normal thing, especially these days, more and more, I'm hearing administrators telling us, telling me, reporting that they have more and more special students, students with special needs, students with additional needs, more and more. Maybe they were not diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, ODD, or whatever other alphabets you can put in there, but they have signs of it, especially after the pandemic. The it spiked. there has been a spike in students coming inside the classroom, and they require additional needs, special attention. But it's possible. As I said, you may think you don't need this now, but I can almost assure you, you will be grateful. You know the 5 step de-escalation ladder so that you do not have to feel helpless when the time comes. Okay? So, 5 steps. First step, anchoring. This is on the part of the teacher. Okay? As I said earlier, the reaction of the teacher is what will determine how things will continue on. When a situation like that happens, a student misbehaves in a special way, exaggerated way, how the teacher reacts will spell the difference. So, first thing we have to do, we have to regulate ourselves. Micropause, drop shoulders, take a slow breath. Don't immediately resort to shouting, screaming, yelling, getting angry, getting upset. If we are inside the classroom trying to teach students self-control, well, the best way to teach them self-control is by seeing us with full control of ourselves. So the first few seconds, as soon as that incident happens, micropause. Don't reply right away. Even if you feel like I have to shout, scream, and yell because it's the right thing to do kasi sobra na talaga yung batang yan. Ilang beses ko nang pinagsabihan. Um, I know that guy to be really like that, defiant, disobedient. Uh, I know that that student has a special case, is a special case and has special needs. And at that moment, it's the right thing to do. No, it's never the right thing to do. Shouting, screaming, yelling, confronting fire with fire just makes things worse. So, micropause. And then remind yourself. Self talk is like telling yourself, this is not a contest. This is not a contest. I'm not trying to show that boy who is in charge here. No, no. This is not a contest. I have to know why that student yelled like that, shouted like that, screamed like that. So you will ask, you will have to be curious. Why? What happened? There must be something behind that action. It cannot just he cannot just suddenly explode like that. And at that moment, here are things we shouldn't do to rush, like as if there is fire and we have to immediately put it out. Well, rushing rushing to the student to um, to show that you are the boss, to humiliate him in front of the class, to moralize. Those are things we shouldn't immediately do. That's part of self-control. Control yourself. That is not the time to moralize and start saying things like, um, you uh, you have just disrupted the class. You have caused other people here to be shaken, troubled, bothered. You shouldn't do that because it's lack of charity, it's not being kind, moralizing. That is not the time yet to do it. Okay, so that's the first. The first 5 to 10 seconds, anchor, be on top of the game. Second thing, the second in the ladder, neutralize. Neutralize non-verbally. 80%. Only 20% with the words you're going to say. So neutralizing means, okay, you angle your body 45% with your hands visible, steady, low voice, 2 to 3 meter distance. You see, I had a teacher in grade 5. When he would get upset, he would remove his eyeglasses and then he would start doing like that with his hand, like as if he's ready to punch a student. We didn't like him. And he hurt students during that time, 1970s, when I was in grade 5. Wala pang bantay bata. I think if there was such a thing as bantay bata, we would have reported him because that was that would be his initial reaction if he would see students defying his direction, not following his instruction, uh, refusing to do what he would tell us to do. He would really remove his glasses like as if ready to get into a fight. That is not how to neutralize. And then be very sparing in what you're going to say. One line only. And I know it's easier said than done, but we have to control ourselves. Do not get on with a lengthy sermon about hindi nyo kami binabayaran. You remember that viral video of a teacher who got so angry at the class and went on to talk about we are not being paid by you. I studied hard to be able to get my degree. That's not the way to neutralize. And in fact, the teacher was bashed by people. I mean, that smacks of lack of self-control. How can that teacher now teach self-control, discipline, professionalism to the students with that kind of reaction? So try to have those one-liner retort that show professionalism, that show self-control, like this. Okay, I'm here to get you back on track. You're the boss. You're in control. You're the adult. You are the one who will straighten things up. Or let's make this easy. We'll solve it quietly. Let's talk outside. Or why don't you come here and let's talk about that? What you just did. One line only. 80% with your body language, 20% one line, one sentence that you will try to neutralize the situation. Avoid moralizing or commands like this. Calm down, keep quiet, follow what I say. I'm the boss here. And even worse, as I said, if you would go on to spend the rest of the period sermonizing, because I've seen teachers like that. When they get angry, the rest of the period, they um, like give it to them. They give them a talk about the sacrifices of the teachers and how low the salary is. And no, that is not how to neutralize the situation. Number 3, offer small wins. Choice plus face saving. I mean, let's face it, when a student, for example, like that, shouts, "This subject is boring. I hate everyone. I hate that." If a student, for example, explodes like that, I mean, all the others know there is something wrong with the student. He needs to save his face. So, for example, you tell the students, okay, no gadget during class, right? And then one student brings out his cell phone and you catch him. Well, two options. You will tell the boy, okay, phone face down on desk, or you can put your phone here on top of my table and you can get it at the end of the class. You choose. That is more than neutralizing. You're offering him a way to save face, to get out of the, well, he has been cornered. You know you can sanction him because he has chosen to break one of the rules inside the classroom. But instead of um, humiliating him or shouting, or even worse, saying something like, John, how many times do you have to be told that you should not bring your cell phone out? You should not bring your gadget. Bring it here now. That just worsens the situation. Or you, that case of the student who shouted this subject is stupid. Do you want 30 seconds here or by the door? I'll come to you. Do you want to talk now or later? Choice. You're giving him a choice. But not to right away react and then to rant and to go on to show how upset you are and you are not anymore in control of yourself. Okay, here's number 4. Time in, which is brief separation without shame. Time out is when you send a student out. You tell the student, get out and don't come back until you are ready to participate. And don't come back until you are apologize or you are sorry. That's time out. No, this one is time in. In the classroom, there may be a place, a spot, a chair where you can say, that is our reset chair. You will ask him to stay 2 minutes there, to catch his breath, to calm down, and then you will say, I'll check in quietly. Just go to the corner first. Uh, you are interested in giving them a chance to get back. Sure, they may have chosen wrongly, they may have made a bad decision in one instant, but that is not enough to get him out and to um, you know not to give him any chance anymore of being able to recover or being able to get back in his also proper state or proper disposition. Or you can have regulation cards, um, regulation card which has 3 prompts that you will ask him to answer on a piece of paper. I feel, whatever it is. I need, whatever it is. Next step. This is what I'll do. So in the case of that student, for example, who shouted, this subject is stupid, I feel. You tell him to write down. What does he feel? I feel angry because I am not understanding the lesson. I need to be coached, to be tutored, to be given more explanation because I'm at a loss. I don't understand. Next step. I will ask for help from the teacher. I can ask for help from the best student in class who can find time to help me. In other words, you give the chance for the student to also think about what he has done and what could have been a better action in the face of that feeling, of that need. The next step will help him, get himself back to the receptive mode of being able to Sit down there, participate, listen, pay attention. Finally, number five is the 2 minute micro conference. Not more, because you cannot leave the whole class for the sake of one student. And so here's a script, for example, that you can follow in that 2 minute micro conference. Observe, not accuse. John, when the lab started, you said it was stupid and walked out. That's not an accusation. That's a description of fact of what transpired, observation. And then you go on to talk about the impact. You do know that it disrupted the class. It derailed your group. And worse, everybody looked at you. It put you in a tough spot. And then you go on to talk about the need. What would help you finish the lab? What would help you get back to the lesson? You see, it still shows maturity that you are still after the good of the student. And then you give him a plan. Next time, signal me with a blue card. You can have these blue cards that if they raise it, they need help, they need assistance, they need you to hear them out. Or in an absence of a blue card like that, you can have a signal. Um, Next time it happens, signal me number four. You show four fingers like that, which means I need help. I need you to hear me out. I need guidance, assistance, support, whatever it is. And then you will tell the person, okay, we're clear about that. Let's reset. Let's get back to the class. You're ready to begin again? Or would you like to wait 1 more minute? Do you need more time to recover? Let me know. That's closing with a choice. 2 minutes. All these things being done in 2 minutes or less. That's repairing. And there goes the disruption. There goes the escalation. You have successfully calmed down the student, and the situation has started to de-escalate. Okay, so here are some say this, not that quick scripts that can help us. So, for example, you see a student bringing out the gadget, the cell phone, the tablet, or whatever it is, when they are not supposed to. Don't shout, give it now. That cell phone here on my table now. And then you shout, you scream. I've seen teachers react that way. It takes more self control, more maturity, more professionalism. Instead, to say something like, I can see it matters. Two choices that can keep you out of trouble. Put the phone down on your desk, or put it here, get it from me at 3 p.m. What protects you best? What's your choice? That's more mature, that's more professional, and that is more being in control rather than to shout, to explode, and to say things like, are you challenging my authority? Or, well, the often repeated line, how many times do you have to be told? And the student will answer, Ma'am, 10 times. And the more you get angry because you are going to say, are you mocking me? Are you making fun of me? Get out. So the teacher's reaction is what will determine how things are going to progress from that point. Or you sometimes hear students who will do side comments or even be disrespectful. Don't say, that's rude. Apologize now, because again, that's the tendency. Um, some teachers feel they are being insulted when a side comment is made, more or less disrespectful comment is made, but rather there is more professionalism in being able to say, okay, I'm going to ignore that jab and stick to the goal. We have to finish this subject. We have to finish this discussion. I'll check in with you after to hear what's underneath, to hear um, what is what has pushed you to say that disrespectful comment. I know it is difficult. I mean, this is easier said than done. But again, this is more formative. And really, this shows more self control on the part of the teacher because we are the adults. These students are kids or young people who are still learning the meaning of respect, the right way of dealing with people, the right way of saying things. Sometimes they just don't know how to say things properly. And they can be really misconstrued as challenging our authority, but they are not. Okay. Um, Now, when a student does something that gets the whole class laughing, reacting, what you shouldn't say. Everyone, keep quiet, or I will send you all out. I will send you all to the principal's office. That is a lame threat because you know you cannot send the whole class to the principal's office. Say instead something like this. Do me a solid. Eyes on your sheet, eyes on your book, eyes on your notebook. I'm working with Jay, the one who caused the, the hype, the trouble. Thank you. Now, to Jay, you're going to say, let's step 2 paces this way so you're not on stage. Let's talk about that. That is more self control, more good example for the students. Accusation of unfairness. The student says, this is unfair. Why am I always being the only one being reprimanded? Don't say life isn't fair. Such is life. Uh, that's just going to like get the kid more how do you call that, angry, upset. Instead, say something like, you're seeing a double standard. I'll explain mine in 30 seconds. But first, what felt unfair, uneven to you? You see, that is a teacher in control, professional, and able to manage his or her emotion. Again, because we are the adults inside the room. Work refusal, a student refusing to do what you want the student to do. You ask the class to bring out a whole sheet of paper and a student refuses. Don't say, if you don't start, I'll give you a 0. If you don't work, why don't you get out of my class? Don't. No, we don't say that. Rather, we say something like, look stuck, want a start line or a swap? I can chunk the first 2 steps for you. I can help you. Is there anything you need to get working? You are still after the good of the student. You are still assuming that it is not because he or she is challenging your authority. There may be some reason um, preventing him or her to get to work. And we are there to help. Okay, non-verbal peacekeeping. You remember we are talking here about how to um, get the war zone, the classroom, get back its right state. So you have this nonverbal peacekeeping distance. Don't get too close. I know some teachers, for example, what they do is they get close to the student, hold them very tightly in the shoulder, hurting them as their way of telling them, you keep quiet, you stop, or else I will continue. No, 2 meters, 3 meters, step in diagonally, not head on. Angle, 45% or 45 degrees rather, open stance, no looming. Hands visible, midline, still. Not the, you're trying to show that you are getting ready to punch, to um, box the person. And then the voice, very important. Low, not shouting, not screaming, not yelling, slow and brief. 7 words per line. That's part of nonverbal peacekeeping. Eyes, soft focus, not the glaring na yung matang parang nag-aapoy sa galit. Glance away to reduce threat. And then movement. No need to, like the teacher I was telling you earlier, he would remove his glasses, start doing like that, and then he would go close to the student. Some of them he would pull in the collar, bring the student in front, and then he would throw the student so that he will hit his head on the blackboard. Believe me, I had experience like that with my teacher in grade 5. So many movements, like as if he is in a, how do you call that, boxing ring. The room, clear reset spot, aisles open, hotspots map. You know exactly where the trouble usually begins or happens. Okay? Those are the non-verbal peacekeeping um, stances, movements that we can put in place. And then it's good to have environmental resets. Like that example I gave earlier, to have a chair inside a classroom that you will classify as the reset chair. And maybe there is a timer there in class, time in, not a punishment. And you're going to explain to the class that if you are sent to the reset chair, you're not being punished. You are being given a chance to reflect on what you have just done, to regain your composure, and to be ready again to participate, to cooperate, to go with the class in achieving what you have set as your objective for the class. Noise floor rule. Teacher drops the voice and the class has to copy. If the teacher puts his voice lower, the volume, that means he also wants the students to speak in low voice. Heat map, mark where flare-ups happen and adjust sitting or the flow weekly. I mean, at a certain point, we already know some students who are troublemakers or who had the propensity to disturb their classmates or not to follow rules. Well, don't put them all together. Put them strategically in a way that they cannot work together to disrupt the class consistently. Arrival rituals, starting the class in a way that you're able to reset. Every single day that you start a class is like a fresh new beginning. Whatever trouble may have happened the day before, um, back to square one. Everyone given a chance to start again. Soft start, 2 minutes settled task. Some teachers would even play some music at low volume just to get everybody on track and in sync. Okay, here are some high friction scenarios, and it's good for you to rehearse it with your co-teachers. Find a way of being able to, I don't know, do it as a workshop. You don't have to invite an outside speaker. Just among yourselves, share how you face high friction scenarios like this. For example, a public challenge, a student seemingly telling the teacher, make me, I dare you to make me do the assignment, to make me do the work you're asking me. Well, for this, go back to the ladder steps, steps one, two, three, and then crowd diffuse line. Those one-liners that, you know, do not, one-liners that do not confront head-on uh, the defiance, peer baiting, a student making side comments to elicit laughter from the class. He is trying to bait his peers into joining him or her in the troublemaking. At that point, you have to learn the micro redirect routine. Trigger stacking. A student comes in late. He says he's hungry. He says the task is hard. All these things piled up one after another. At that moment, what you need to resort to is the environmental reset. Get him to say in that reset chair, make the person reflect on what he has just gotten himself into. Wait for him to be ready to get back into the groove and into the class activities. Misinformation moment. A student claims that you are singling him out. Okay, we will have to use the script to make him understand fairness. And then finally, this end of class surge, everybody excited to get out of the classroom. They're restless. They keep on looking at the clock. They are fixing their things, even if you are not yet dismissing them. The noise, the rushing, that is when you have to have in place an exit protocol. How to end your class, a procedure that you should rehearse with them and that you will have to make them do over and over until it becomes a routine. We're down to the last set. Consequences that do not escalate. Okay. These are the things that we can make the students do that will not add more pressure, add more frustration and anger on the part of the students, and also on your part, that you will not have to get upset. Do the work consequence. Let them finish tasks during class pause, or structured time. If, for example, the student erupts with that one-liner that makes the whole class laugh, well, consequence is simply finish your work, and you only have a few minutes left before time is up. So get back to work. That's it. Just that's the only consequence. You get him to get back to work. Privileges swap. Choice of where to work, who to sit with, that they can earn back. For example, the student does something um, unruly. Well, you're going to say something like, okay, I will give you the option to work, move to another seat, but only if you I see you first getting serious about the work being done, and not anymore disrupting the class with your one-liners or with trying to be funny. In other words, a privilege that they would like to be able to get, moving to another chair, working with another partner, working with another classmate. Those are privileges that they can get, that they can swap with in exchange for not escalating further the situation. Make it right action, restore materials, apologize by choice, help the group. Number four, adult partnership. Scheduled check-in with advisor or with coach or with another teacher that they find easy to open up to. And then number five, parent contact. And this has to be a calm and brief encounter with the parents, describing what you saw, what the student needs, and the plan that you agreed with, that you agreed on with a student as you continue on. That this situation, these things will not happen again in the future. I repeat, the teacher is the adult inside the classroom. That's why she is the peacekeeper. Our job is to make sure that things do not escalate farther to more trouble, to bigger problems for the students as well as for the teachers. I'm sure you're familiar with that quotation. The don't raise your voice, raising your voice, or rather, raising your voice will not necessarily raise his grades. Maybe it will only raise your blood pressure, but it's not going to make things better. Therefore, if there is at least one major um, clear skill we should have in our mind after this session, it is that one, the skill of being always in control, never resorting to shouting, screaming, yelling, or even worse, hurting or harming the student through our words or through physical action. I've seen teachers, ineffective teachers who are like that. They think that the more hurtful words they use, the more disciplined Jan and Joey will become. It doesn't work that way. John and Joey will just be full of resentments. And that doesn't make the situation better. So, those are the de escalation skills for the everyday classroom war zone. You can now scan the QR code, and I'm also now going to type in the chat box the link to claim the certificates. You can click on the link now, okay? Or you can scan the QR code to fill up the form and then claim your certificates. For those who follow us in the recording, I make sure to include the QR code in the recording so that that is your way of being able to get to the link of the recording of the form, no, of the Google form. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. We will resume tomorrow with, I think, our number 18. We're actually down to the just the last three sessions in the series. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. God bless and take care. We will close the Zoom room in three, two, and one. Bye, everyone.